Chapter 30, Solo's Adventures. Wow, said Solo, that was a short one. Anyway, the next chapter is Solo's adventure, so I'd better read that too. There was a loud cheer of agreement. Keep going, roared Magal. Okay, yelled Solo with a big grin. The next morning, Solo awoke early, so he went up to the family kitchen on the 6th floor. It had the best view of the harbour. Solo loved to see the pink feathery clouds that often hung around the horizon near sunrise and sunset. It always made him think of his grandfather and his brother. Both were named Anatole. It was Greek for the break of day. Such a brilliant name, especially seeing as Anatole the Elder had grown up to become a light magician who repairs lighthouses. Solo loved going with his grandfather to help restore a light. It was so wonderful to see the light blaring across the ocean at night, warning ships to stay away from the rocks, warning storms to go away, and reminding everyone of the wonder of light. He thought of the lighthouses as seeds from the sun spinning around in a giant's toy. Solo moved his gaze to the hewn pine tree outside their kitchen window. Its leaves were glistening with pre-dawn dew, and it sort of sang in the breeze. His mother had built a treehouse in the pine so she could sit out there and study. Solo wondered if his mother would ever grow up. When his parents woke up, Solo said, "I'm going to tunnel for a bit and see if I can find the tunnel kids." "Be careful," said Nell. "Always," said Solo with a grin. Solo made his way to the Fountain Well tunnel, and then from there he headed carefully to the secret university tunnel. After about an hour of going down the tunnels, it became really dark. And then there was a change, and the tunnel walls had strange tiles on them. Solo had his headlamp turned on to full. The tiles were mostly cream, but some were decorated with gold and purple diamond shapes. It was different to the way he'd come after leaving Godot, but Solo didn't mind. Up ahead, he could also hear a noise he'd never heard in the tunnels. It started to get louder. The sound was a bit like the rushing of wind through trees. He stopped, wondering if it was safe to go on. A little way further on, he could see some bright lights, and the tunnel looked as if it widened out into an opening of some sort. Solo crept up slowly because he'd never seen anything anywhere in the tunnels that was quite so bright. The light of the Emash was dim in comparison. The light in this place was a blazing white. When Solo entered the area, he had no idea what he'd stumbled upon. On one of the walls was printed in large black letters, "Dragolin City Station." "Man," whispered Solo. Dragolin City hadn't existed for centuries, and neither had trains. There were quite a few seats scattered about the old railway station. Solo peered down at the train tracks. To him they looked like an ancient ladder on the ground. He was about to climb down and have a look when he heard a really loud whistle. The sound of rushing wind seemed to be getting closer and closer. In a panic, Solo leapt back from the edge of the platform when he saw a large round torch zooming towards him. He'd never seen a train in real life, and his first thought was that someone was drilling out new tunnels with a massive machine. Suddenly, with an enormous blast of air, a purple and gold train stopped right next to Solo, emitting a huge blast of steam. To Solo's surprise, the sign on its doors said, "Again." Off the train jumped the ticket master, who was a little gingerbread man. "Hello," he said. "I'm Balloonist Ginger. Are you off to Again?" "Sorry?" asked Solo, confused. "This is the train to Again," explained Balloonist. "Are you here to catch this one, or are you waiting for the next train which goes to Once More?" "The train to Again," repeated Solo. "I'm sorry, I've never been on a train." "You're missing out," said Balloonist, looking sorry for Solo. "If you ask me, this is the best train in the universe." Solo stared at the train's purple and gold engine and smiled at Balloonus. I'll have to take your word for it, he said. I haven't seen a real train before. Where I come from, there aren't any. Balloonus looked horrified. No trains? Oh, hop aboard. I won't even charge you. Everyone who's lived a life without trains deserves to ride for free. Balloonus flourished one of his hands. What's more, he added, I'm going to give you a lifetime pass, which will allow you to ride and ride and ride whenever and wherever you like. Solo looked at the ticket. It was a miniature gingerbread man, so he hoped that it wouldn't crumble away, and he also made a mental note not to eat his ticket. Thank you, he said formally. I'm sorry, I haven't introduced myself properly. But at that moment the train's whistle blasted again. No time, shouted Balloonus. We're leaving right now. Jump aboard. On the train to Again, Solo smiled to himself. Now he knew exactly what Godot had meant. He had to go to a place called Again by train in order to train again with Godot. Solo wasn't sure how long his training would take, but he supposed that he wouldn't be able to look for Dodger and the others. Training with Godot was far too important to miss out on. Plus, he truly believed that Petrel and Dodger were more than capable of rescuing Dorrit by themselves. Outside the train windows there were flashes of light, but mostly it was quite dark and a little bit scary. Inside the train, the sound of flowing water was being piped through the carriage's sound system. A little penguin waitress asked Solo if she could get him a drink. Not having any money, Solo felt nervous about asking for anything, so he declined, but the waitress seemed to be able to read his mind. Please feel free, she said. There are no charges on the train to Again. The friendly little bird smiled and adjusted her pen and paper with her flippers, waiting to take Solo's order. Thank you, said Solo. Could I have a chocolate milkshake, please? Entirely possible, but would you like to have a chocolate and orange milkshake, a chocolate and banana milkshake, a caramel milkshake with chocolate cream, a chocolate and strawberry flandango thick shake, a blueberry chocolate and silver flip, or just a plain chocolate milkshake, either white, light, or dark? Asked the little waitress. Wow, said Solo. The light chocolate milkshake, thank you. As the little penguin shuffled off, Solo snuggled down into the thick plush velvet of his seat and felt strangely glad to see written above the exit door, Best Class Passengers Only. He'd never travelled best class before. In fact, he'd never travelled any class at all. When the penguin returned with his milkshake, he asked her what other classes there were on the train. She laughed and said, Oh, we only take best class passengers, sir. How do the other classes travel then? Asked Solo. The other classes, she asked, looking confused. Why, there are no other classes. Everyone's the best. That's our company motto. Oh, said Solo, sipping his shake. The little penguin smiled and shuffled off. The train seemed to be slowing down a little. A voice announced, This is nearly their station. Next stop, Again.